Let's go. So if you could just introduce yourself to me, so if you could say your name, position, your club and your international.
Okay. Joe Launchbury, second row, London Wasps in England.
Brilliant. How did you decide to play rugby? How did that all come around for you?
I started playing rugby at the age of 7 in Exmouth Rugby Club back in Devon. My dad took me down on a couple of Sundays, and to start with I didn't massively enjoy it, but as the weeks went by I started to love it.
Brilliant. Which side do you play normally, 4 or 5?
I normally wear number 4, and I'm normally on the tight head side of the scrum.
Okay. What actually is the difference between 4 and 5, if there is one?
It kind of depends who your partner is more than anything. Typically number 5 is normally the line-out cooler, and sort of a more of an aerial target in the line-out. But it's kind of a bit of a blend now. They're kind of quite similar now.
Okay, brilliant. So what is your job then as a lock during the set pieces, so the scrum and the line-out?
So in the scrum, I'm behind the tight head in the scrum. So it's a big chance for me to work with my tight head in the scrum, stay nice and tight to him, and basically help him out where I can and push him around the scrum. In the line out, I'm normally sort of towards the back in the line out, offering an option to jump. And then outside the set piece, obviously try and make my figures as high as possible in terms of rucks hit and tackles and carries.
Brilliant. Now, how much of playing second row is sort of athleticism versus brute strength? Obviously you can't sort of have one without the other. How do you balance the two?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely changed over the years. I think perhaps 5-6 years ago you looked at the second rows then, and that they were more about sort of power and strength. Now I say it's slightly gone more towards being more athletic. I think if you look at the guys who are at the top of the charts in world rugby and second rows at the moment, they're athletic figures who like to get around the park and have a blend of that power, but also have the ability to sort of get round and sort of tire out the opposition.
So what are the main attributes a player needs to play lock? So if you said you need this and this to play it, what would they be? I'd
say work rate is very important. I think to be able to sort of outwork your opposition is a massively important feature of being a second row. Physicality, I don't think you can mix it in the front 5 of a pack without being physical. And lastly, I'd say skill set. I think to set yourself aside from other second rows in your position and sort of in your area. If you've got a higher skill set than them, that will set you in a good stead.
Okay. Is height a critical factor? Is being tall, should I say, a critical factor in playing second row?
It depends what you mean. I think if you're under 6 foot, you're probably struggling. But if you're 6'2", 3", I can't see any reason why you can't play second row. You don't have to be 6'7" or whatever. I think it helps sometimes in terms of line out, but no, on the whole, I think you just have to be pretty sort of average height.
Okay. What is your training regime like then as a second row?
For me, obviously, important things I look at. Obviously, gym work's important. Trying to keep mobile in the gym, trying to keep strong, keep powerful. That's important. And then out on the pitch, I'm constantly working on my scrum setups and my line out, and trying to keep improving there.
Okay. And opposite that, how does your diet build around? Is there anything you're told you just can't have?
Not really. Fortunately, in the position I play, sort of carrying a bit of weight is not such a bad thing. Obviously, you don't want to be fat, but it's important to eat a lot around training. Make sure your nutrition's good, so you eat well. Obviously, occasionally after games, having sort of a treat or two is no bad thing.
So, sort of in an average week, how many calories would you eat a day then? Sort of how many portions would that give you?
I wouldn't be able to tell you calorie numbers, but we try and eat sort of 4 times a day, 4 meals a day. So it'd be breakfast, lunch, and then you'd eat about 4 o'clock, and then you'd eat again about 7. So that'd be 4 cooked meals, and then around that you'd obviously perhaps have 1 or 2 snacks. So, but I wouldn't be able to tell you calorie numbers.
Sort of moving on from that, do you have any exercises that help prevent injuries? Sort of are on them key areas that rugby players tend to get injured? Yeah,
definitely. It's a massive focus when we're in the gym. We do our core lifts, our core heavy lift, like a bench press or a squat, but we also do a lot of physio-based work. So for me at the moment, like you said, you obviously take a lot of impact on your shoulders, so trying to keep shoulder rehab's important. So you do lots of banded work, lots of stability work in your shoulder, keeping all that strong, that's important. And obviously the same with all your other major joints, your ankles and your hips and your knees. Okay.
How do you mentally prepare yourself for a match? And let's say you're in the change room just before you go out on the pitch. Do you have any rituals that you do?
I personally don't. Everyone's completely different. Some guys like to bang their head on the wall and get themselves up. Other guys are very calm. I'm probably more towards the calm side. I like to keep myself to myself a little bit. Go out and do my individual warm up on my own, and then go back into the change room and have a bit of time to think about my roles coming up.
Okay, does this differ between club and international level, or is it exactly the same for you?
No, I try and keep it very consistent. I think the key is that when you come here, you stick with what's worked for you back at the club and carry it through.
Okay, what do you make to the new Scrum laws? Do you like them? Do you prefer them to you? And more critically, do you think they're actually working?
Firstly, I'll say that I think they're definitely working. I think the Scrum last year at times was very hard to sort of manage for the referees, but also for the players. And now definitely the ball seems to get out a bit more, because ideally at the end of the day that's what a Scrum's for. It's to get the ball in and away and get your team playing. And I actually think personally as a second row, I think I enjoy the new laws a bit more. It puts a bit more stress on making sure your body height's in a good position and various things like that.
Okay, sticking with the Scrum, say if you're not winning the Scrum or you're being pushed back, as a second row, how do you have to adapt what you're doing at the time? Obviously everyone loves going forward, but there are times where you do get pushed back. Is there anything you can do to try and stem it, or is it just a case of you've got to wait?
You obviously work with your prop. So for me, I work with the tight end and the Scrum. But the key thing for a second row is like you said, you've got to try and stem it as best you can. So keeping your studs in the deck is very important. So on the engage, you keep your studs in. You're not lifting your feet. You're not scrummaging off one, or you always got 2 feet in the deck, and you're putting in as much weight through your prop as you can. Okay,
then last few questions. How much of playing, particularly being a forward, is psychological? Obviously, you've got a lot of competition in the Scrum, the line out. How did you, do you ever have sort of psychological warfare for people that are trying to get one-upmanship on you?
I say in the line-out sometimes there's a bit of that. There's a bit of sort of false calling and moving around, trying to put your opposite man off. But no, on the whole, I'd say you're in your own team's little bubble and you're very focused on your own goals.
Okay then. Is there anyone when you were growing up that you draw inspiration from to play? And was there anyone sort of particular to the position that you play now that you sort of looked up to coming up?
Yeah, I think an obvious one, and as most second rows in my era would probably say the same thing. Martin Johnson was obviously a massive figure for me, being a second row, lifting the World Cup. They're pretty easy things to follow, really. So he was a big influence on me, and then Lawrence Dallaglio, who's at Wasps, he was also a player I looked up to.
Brilliant. Last question, who do you think is the best lock in the world, and why? What makes them so good at what they do?
I think at the moment that we're actually there's a lot of good locks around at the moment. There's obviously I think the Kiwi pairing are very strong. I think that the young South African Ibn Etzbeth, I think his qualities are there for all to see. But for me, although he's probably aging a bit now, in his prime he was the best, and I'd say he's aging. He's still probably in his prime now. He's still playing some great rugby. But Paul O'Connor for Ireland is probably right up there in terms of what he can do as a player. I think you could see in the Lions how well he played.
Okay, brilliant, Joe. Thank you.